Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 62. Andrew Eisen here, along with Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary. Welcome back.
Hello, Andrew. Hello, everybody out there. What a week, huh?
Yeah, I've done no laundry, and it's getting really bad. I'm actually wearing a patterned shirt, patterned T-shirt, because I ran out of plain black T-shirts to wear. I actually had to wear my tank top the other day. Now I'm wearing a logo tee. It's one of my, it's still black, so that's nice, but it has a barbershop logo on it. And I'm also wearing a swimsuit in lieu of underwear because I have no clean underwear left. I really need to do laundry.
Don't you just flip them inside out and wear them that way for an extra day?
I never thought of that. I live alone, so I could totally get away with that. And then I went for my yearly eye exam and got new contacts and a new year's supply of contacts. Well, actually, I don't have the year's supply yet. That needs to be ordered. They just gave me new ones.
Yeah.
And my left contact was bugging the hell out of me. I was like, oh my God, do I have a lash caught under the lens? And I kept taking it out and washing it, putting it back in. And it bugged me for a solid day until I really, really examined my contact and noticed that it was torn right down the center. So there was a tear in the middle of my left lens. And that's what was driving me nuts. So I only have one contact in right now. which actually is fine. I guess my left peripheral vision is a little fuzzier than it would be otherwise, but
yeah.
And let's see what else. Oh, I've been continuing playing through The Last of Us. I don't know if
I've seen some of your tweets. I haven't paid a whole lot.
Well, I found out why my sister really likes the game, because it has giraffes in it. There's a sequence where you're wandering through a building and there's a bunch of giraffes that just walk on by.
Interesting.
And it's the same thing as the brachiosaur in Jurassic Park, where they slow down the jeeps. Brachiosaur, and they're like, oh my God, it's that exact same thing, only with giraffes. And they even do the petting the giraffe thing that they do later in the movie, where the brachiosaur comes and eats leaves in the tree. That does exactly that. So
does it sneeze all over them?
It doesn't do that, but
darn.
All right, so it's not exact, but the same idea.
So are these just supposed to be giraffes that, after the collapse of society, they just managed to get out of the zoo?
Yeah, they're probably a herd of zoo giraffes that have just been wandering around for 20 years.
Yeah.
So last week, I had only played the first 3 hours of the game. I had met Ellie, and I had stopped the game. Tess was still in my party, so to speak, and I actually stopped to do the podcast literally right before Tess and Joel go their separate ways. So, literally, you open the door and a cutscene starts, and she says, "Well, peace out," and she's gone. I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I was musing about she's gonna be gone at some point, because she's not on the front of the box, so I know these two go at it alone at some point. So that's where I stopped. So I kept playing the game. And to summarize, if you didn't see last week's podcast, I didn't really care for it. I thought it was really linear and dull. There just wasn't enough to do. And I still think that for the first 3 hours of the game, it's way too restrictive. The city that you start in, the first 3 hours is just being funneled down hallways and corridors. But after Tess leaves, you get to a town, and the game opens up a little bit. And you get into a town that's a little bit wider. It's kind of a wide corridor, but there's a main street and there's houses that you can rummage around in, and the set decoration in the game is really great. So you can kind of there's a story that's told just by looking at the area you're in and the objects on the floor and the signs on the wall. And I like that detail, and I find it fun to just kind of scrounge in the world and find stuff to put in my pockets. It makes me happy opening drawers and stealing everybody's things. So
just
after
like
the
a good
3 hour mark,
RPG adventure.
the game does open up a little bit. It has a bit more emphasis on scrounging and item gathering and survival, and you can find little comic books for Ellie, and you can find garbage that you can use to craft or to upgrade your weapons when you come across a workbench. There's more things to find as you get access to new items that you can craft. There's more things in the environment to find. In the very beginning of the game, you can't make smoke bombs or nail bombs or anything. So the elements that you collect to build that stuff are not in the environment yet. You won't find any ammo for the guns you don't have yet. So in the first 3 hours of the game, there's very little to do except walk down the corridor. There's rarely ever any things to scrounge or places to go or things to see. But the game does open up a little bit. So I'm not done with it yet, but it's better. I still wouldn't call it exactly good because it's still kind of boring, and I don't find the main characters likable in the least, especially Joel. He's just a murdering monster. I mean, to be fair, that's the world they live in, but it's just unpleasant. Everyone is terrible. I don't know. It's really not doing it for. I mean, it's not a bad game. I'm not having a bad time playing it. But every time, I mean, it's kind of like Uncharted. Every time a fight happens, I'm like, okay. I'd much rather just wander around and explore and pick things up and put them in my pocket. But I think it's worth experiencing just to see what everyone's talking about. It's a fairly lengthy game. Did I cut my finger? I think I did. It's a fairly lengthy game. It seems to have been going on for a while. It also has a really amazing glitch that I found that I'll make a video of later. And there's also a weird thing where I got stuck in the game, and this was just an hour ago. There's you're trying to cross this fast-moving body of water. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out what to do. I was stuck. I'm like, do I climb down into the water? And it rushes you away, and you get stuck against a wall, and you can't go anywhere. I had to reset. But I didn't see anywhere else to go, so I read a walkthrough, and it's like, climb up here. I'm like, how? There's a gap. And there's no prompt to, like, jump over or anything. And so I started going through reading walkthroughs and watching video walkthroughs, and this is, as far as I can tell, the only place in the game where you can actually take a running leap at something. I only did it once, but I think what I did, and this was the second time I tried it, was I ran at this gap, and I hit the action button, even though there wasn't a prompt, and he just kind of leapt over. I'm like, you can't introduce a jump the gap element 13 hours into the game. Don't do that. That's really, really bad design. I don't know if there was a prompt that was supposed to come up, or if jumping was a thing that they taught you like the very beginning of the game and it was never used again until now, and I completely forgot about it, which is what Metroid Other M does with the power bomb. It'll teach you that like at the very front of the game, and then you completely forget about it, and then you can't figure out how to beat the final boss, and you look up online and you're like, oh, the power bomb, yeah, the thing you taught me 20 hours ago and it never came up again. I totally forgot I could even do that.
Nice.
I didn't know I could pull myself up. There's another part in Other M where I'm trying to get into this room, and I see what I think is an exit. It's an open vent. I think, oh, well, the morph ball just rolls on out of there. what you do is you jump up, you grab the ledge, and you pull yourself up into Morph Ball and roll down the vent. No idea you could do that. I may be misremembering
That
this, but
is
I don't think the
interesting.
game actually tells you can do that. Now, to be fair, that's something that was introduced in earlier games like Fusion, which I had not played. So I was not aware that
Yeah,
Samus could
yeah.
actually pull
Because
herself up into Morph Ball.
Yeah, because in previous Metroid games, it's either get something like the spider ball that lets you climb up walls in morph ball mode, or use bomb jumping to get into higher up gaps like that. Yeah, I've never played a Metroid game where you could jump and then pull yourself into morph ball. That's not something that yeah, I've never seen that
Yeah.
in a Metroid
Now she
game. But
could jump. I knew she could jump and grab the ledges and pull herself up,
yeah,
but there was no instance up until that point where she needed to where she pulled herself up into Morph Ball,
yeah.
which I think is, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's context sensitive. So I jump up and she'd grab the ledge, and I didn't do anything because I'm like, well, I obviously can't pull myself up into the vent. It's much too small.
Yeah.
So 13U Cube says, does Andrew's audio sound different than it usually does? I don't
Yeah,
know.
you sound a little more, I guess, hollow. Not really echoey, just more like you're in a big empty room talking. I guess I don't know.
Oh, well.
It sounds different than what we normally get, but it's not distorted or anything. So there's that.
That's good. All right.
Yeah.
So you've been playing anything this week?
Oh, yeah, I finally I beat Magikarp Jump earlier this week. I beat what was available up till that point, and then earlier this week they pushed an update that contained the last two leagues that I could compete in, the Elite Four League, where I got to battle the Magikarp Jump versions of the Elite Four, and that was pretty cool. And then because the Elite Four actually had unique looks, like the trainers, they had looks that were different than any of the other opponent trainers, that which was really cool, because all the other trainers that you go up against, they're just palette swaps of your trainer. And the Elite Four had different shaped hats, different clothes that they wore, and that was really cool. And then after that is the Master League, which was um, kind of a letdown after the Elite Four, because it was just back to the basics type thing, and just not very interesting way to close it. But and I was very curious about what the game does after you beat these, because these are the last leagues. As far as I'm aware, um, there's no plans for further leagues or anything. So you can get your Magikarp up to level 100 now, and which is kind of interesting, because it doesn't you can keep getting jump power or experience, or whatever you want to call it, after level 100. You just don't level up anymore, and so your jump power just keeps going up and up and up and up. And I'm just curious about how high it lets you go. I looked online, and apparently some people were getting up, and like right now my Magikarp is up to like 60 some odd billion jump power, and I read online that somebody actually got it up to 1 trillion, which was
Wow.
kind of neat. Um, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to do after this, other than getting the last few uh, Magikarp patterns, color and patterns that are in the game, and then there's some events and other things that you can do, and then all the achievements that you can all max out. And I'm not really interested in a lot of that. For one, random encounters. These are events that you can trigger after training, or after winning or losing a league battle, and there are at least four that I can recall that Yeah, let's see. Dratini, Eevee, Snorlax, Slowpoke, and I think there was one more. Oh, Mimikyu. So 5 that events that you can get or that you can unlock, find, but you have to buy something with the premium currency, with the diamonds in the game. And so you have to get a Mimikyu, a Snorlax, and a Slowpoke support buddy. These are buddies that hang around your pond, and they do certain things like give you extra experience, extra food, extra coins, whatever. So you have to spend diamonds to get these. And then there's a statue that you have to buy, and then finally, when you cast your rod to catch a Magikarp, if you don't like the Magikarp you get, you can spend some diamonds to pick a different rod and try to get a better Magikarp. And and if you do that 5 times in a row, you can pull up a Dratini, and which is one of these events. But altogether, you have to spend over 2,000 diamonds, probably more than that, probably somewhere closer to 2,500 diamonds. But at this point in the game, there's hardly any way to get diamonds for free. I've bought pretty much everything that I could, and I have like maybe 100 some odd diamonds left over, and I only have one of those 5 things. I have a Slowpoke, and yeah, so you would have to actually spend real money in order to get enough diamonds to do all that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending real money on this game. I'm sorry. So yeah, I figure the 4 paid for events I'm just going to not care about. But yeah, it was a fun game, and I really enjoyed playing it while there was enough content to keep me interested. But at this point, I'm just kind of not all that interested in playing it anymore. And so other than that, I've just been playing Stardew Valley. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm in the middle of spring of my 2nd year, and I'm actually making money now. I've been able to buy and upgrade a barn and a chicken coop, and I've got a sizable crop coming in. And one of the things I need to work on is actually pre-planning my crops a little bit better. I have tons of space and cropland ready. At the beginning of spring, I just had not really thought through what crops I was going to plant, and I ended up not buying enough seeds and at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the season, and now I'm kind of just whatever, and then kind of start over at summer. But yeah, it's a really fun game. I like it. I've been actually
And
for
where
the
did you
first
get
time.
Stardew Valley?
I think it came in a humble bundle. So
According to InfoFile over on one of our
yeah.
the Molehill Mountain articles on Random Tower, InfoFile says, "I do hope you didn't forget about the copy of Stardew Valley I gifted you."
Oh, is that what it is? Oh yeah. Oh man, I feel bad now. But yes, I got it from InfoFile, not a humble bundle. I buy so many games from the humble bundle. I just kind of
No worries, no worries.
yeah.
He also says,
I feel bad.
InfoFile also has a copy of Valkyria Chronicles 2, is planning to sell for
Nice.
about $25 if you're interested. So
I wish. I don't have that kind of spending money right now.
yeah, I'm in. You all know that my rent just went up, but I just spent $300 on new contacts for the next year, plus the eye exam and all that crap.
Yeah.
I upgraded my editing software, and that was a mistake because it's terrible. I'm really not liking my new editing software. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of the digital upgrades, so it's not a refundable thing, unfortunately. Um, it's only $50, but that's $50 I could have used to help buy new shoes, which I really need. I also need new laces because I went to tie my shoes, the lace snapped in half. I'm like, no. So my boot is like laced 2 down because I had to redo the lace.
Yeah,
Oh,
one of the things I hate about the shoelaces, I get hiking boots.
Yeah,
and they get those ones come with the
big corded round ones.
Yeah,
that I hate.
yeah, the round ones, and I always the outer shell or whatever, the tube on the outside always splits on me, and so it's like, and so I'm constantly having to pull the outer shell down, tie it, and stuff, and then so I get a pair of hiking boots every once in a while. That's what I like to wear, hiking boots, and
I wear
I'll
hefty duty utility boots, work boots.
Yeah.
Kind of boots.
Yeah, so I get hiking boots, and the brand I get usually lasts me a year and a half before they get to a point where I really consider replacing them. But I have to replace the shoelaces at least 2 times before I buy new shoes. And I try to find a good pair of shoelaces that aren't the round ones, because if you get something else, they usually works out better. But yeah.
I also want to. Shoes are the priority, but there's other things I want to buy. Like I want to get heavier weights, but weights are super expensive. They're like $1 a pound. So if you want to buy a pair of 90-pound dumbbells, that's almost $200 when you talk in tax. It's like, man, wow. I just want a heavier set of dumbbells to work out with. I don't want to bankrupt myself. Come on. Maybe I'll call Craigslist or something, see if anyone's getting rid of weights.
Yeah, I've got a pair of hand free weights, so the single hand ones, and then I've got the dumbbells, whatever, and then I've got, what is it, 4 5-pounds, and then 4 10-pounds that I use, and so I can get a total of 30 pounds plus the bar itself on each arm when I'm actually in shape. I haven't used them in a while, but I need to get back into that because I'm starting to get really flabby and gross.
Yeah, I went to the gym the other night. I forgot to put in my contacts, so I couldn't ogle the attractive people, which made it a less fun workout. Oh, well. On the other hand, if you don't have your contacts in, they don't shift around because I wear a bandana in the gym because it helps keep the sweat out of my face, which travels down my face and into my eyeballs, and then makes my lenses float around in the sweat, which is really irritating. But
and gross, yeah.
I mean, when you're sitting there, you're holding your eye open and you're like moving a lens back into place. That's great. All right. So first topic, DuckTales. Woo. Yeah. So Disney XD or whatever it's called.
Disney XD. That's their that's their main cartoon channel these days.
What is XD supposed to be?
I have no idea.
Does it stand for anything?
I don't think so. Extreme Disney? I don't know.
Oh, if it was the 90s, it would almost certainly be that. Extreme. Everything was extreme spelled with an X.
Yeah.
So Disney went ahead. They're doing a new DuckTales show.
And apparently Darkwing Duck and what was the town he lived in or city he lived in? I forget now. But apparently Duckburg is what.
Oh, the city Darkwing Duck was in?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember that one. But yeah, apparently, from what I understand, is that this DuckTales universe is actually going to be is going to include Darkwing Duck's universe as well, because supposedly the original Darkwing Duck was not technically part of the DuckTales universe, even though Launchpad McQuack was shared between them and Gizmo Duck as well. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. But
So,
back on topic.
They released the first 2 episodes. I guess the 2-parter.
Hour-long pilot.
Yeah. And I guess we should just start out. What do you think of the remix of the DuckTales theme song?
Oh, that's a tough question. The original is such a classic. Even having not watched the original cartoon for years, I could still sing the theme song because it was just that ingrained in my childhood and in my brain that it's awesome. And in this new one, they decided they wanted to pay homage to that, but they didn't want to just remake the song, re-record the song, and
it's a cover.
They created, it's basically a cover, and it's not bad. It manages to get the feel right and the beat right, as far as I tell. I'm not much of a music guy, but it's different enough that it says that this is a new version of DuckTales. So it's DuckTales, but it's different, and it does so in a good way, not in a X-Men final season or Gargoyles final season way, where they just completely changed the opening theme songs and then the animation goes to pot, and, so yeah, I kind of like it. What about you? What do you think of the theme song, the new theme song?
It's not as good as the original.
I don't think anything ever could be. But yeah.
No, but I think it does a few things poorly. For one, I think it's mixed wrong. Although this is kind of more a trend of modern music. The harmony parts are mixed way the hell down to the point where I almost missed them the first time I listened to the song. I mean, the harmonies when the harmony comes in and accompanies the melody in the original song, it's really obvious. In this one, it's buried in the mix. I don't like that. Also, the beat is not the beat. The bass line is not as distinct. The new version is very percussion driven, but the bass line is muddled. Overall, I don't care for the instrumentation of this new mix of the song. When you listen to if I had you listen to the opening 5 or 6 seconds of the original DuckTales theme, and I said, okay, sing back to me the bass line, you go boom 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 boom, because it's clear. In the new one, it's just kind of a mushy mess. Listen to the first 6 seconds of the new DuckTales theme and try to vocally imitate it. You can't. It's just mushy and muddled, and it doesn't work. The thing that really sells the original the original DuckTales is the brass section, the ba ba da da da, DuckTales, woo, ba 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 ba. It's the brass section in the background, and that's missing in the new version, and there's a hole. Overall, though, it's not bad. I just don't agree with a lot of the ways they went around it. I don't like the fact that the harmonies mixed down. I find the bass line indistinct, and I don't agree with the the instrumentation of the
Yeah.
piece. I will say I do like also the bridge section. Danger, what's behind you? Where they drop out a lot of the instrumentation and make it quieter. I get what they were going for. It just doesn't work for me. I mean, it's not a bad choice. I just don't care for it. I do like the. I think the repeat that they add to the very end is okay because it's a nice flourish that makes this version of the song more distinct.
Yeah.
There's actually a word that describes exactly what they did there, and I forget what it is. But
yeah, one of the things that actually does bug me with the new theme song is that the woo isn't as pronounced as it is in the original, and I think that is to its detriment. Because in the original ones, it's DuckTales woo like that.
Yeah, it's very brash and forward.
Yeah, but in this one, it's
a little
in the
subdued.
background and quieter, and it's like that's supposed to be something that gets you pumped, get you up there. But yeah, that's the biggest issue I have with the new theme song.
Yeah, 13U Cube, there are indeed tales of daring, do, bad, and good luck tales.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they have most of the lyrics, as far as I can remember, intact. So
for the minute-long opening, yeah, it's the same, except for that extended bit at the very end, which does a repeat. It's exactly the same. I don't mind the opening though. I like the fact that. This covers the whole show, I suppose, but I like the fact that the art has gone back a little bit closer to the actual comic book, with the texturing and the heavy lines and the shapes of a lot of the characters. There's a lot more evocative or reminiscent of the original comic books, which is maybe not as aesthetically pleasing when you're used to just the really rounded Disney look. But if I had to pick which one I aesthetically like better, it'd probably be the softer, rounder look of the show from the 90s. But I do admire this. It's a very clean art style. The animation is definitely a lot better than it's ever been. Attention to detail,
definitely.
coloring. So I like the way it looks.
Yeah, the way it looks is fine. I think back in the 80s and 90s, Disney was trying to keep everything looking similar enough to the Disney proper theme, like
there was a very Disney look.
A very Disney look.
You could have done crossovers on any of it. You could have crossed over with Rescue Rangers and it would have worked.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was an 80s and 90s Disney. Nowadays, Disney is experimenting a lot with animation styles. They've got these Mickey Mouse shorts. And they are, I don't know how to really describe it, but kind of a more kind of a, they're not really Ren and Stimpy style, but maybe like a light Ren and Stimpy style.
I would describe it as going back to Mickey's more mischievous roots.
Yeah.
He was a bit more of a prankster back in the really early days of Mickey Mouse, and he got softened a bit. I think he's kind of getting a little bit of that edge back. I mean, he's never been anywhere near like Bugs Bunny or anything, but
but Disney's they've got that, and then and then they do the more serious styles like with the Star Wars side of things, and then they've got the Marvel thing. But with the actual Disney properties, they are really they're doing a lot of different animation styles, and so I'm glad that they are giving DuckTales a unique look from what other cartoon shows they've got going on, and that's good. I like that. But what about the voice work? What do you think of the voices?
Well, Alan Smith, I think, is the guy who done Scrooge McDuck. He died years ago. So David Tennant took over the voice work, and I think he does a really nice job.
Yeah, he does. He does pull off a really good and authentic sounding Scrooge McDuck without trying to imitate the original, which is
Right.
yeah,
He's got the accent and the attitude without doing a complete impression of
yeah,
the original voice actor, and I think he works really well. He's also a bit more modern-minded than Scrooge McDuck was in the original DuckTales. In the original, if you watch the original DuckTales today, Scrooge is going to come off as like kind of a unpleasant, terrible person who hates poor people. They've
well,
they've brought Scrooge into the 21st century in a lot of
yeah.
respects, which
Well,
is
and that Scrooge McDuck was really based off of A Christmas
the
Carol,
Charles Dickens
and
character, right?
yeah,
Right.
and so you've got the Charles Dickens Scrooge McDuck, and from that movie, and then they brought him into the TV show, and they just kind of carried that personality
Mm-hmm.
into it with kind of I guess more of the after Christmas Scrooge McDuck, but he's still a curmudgeonly guy, and but he still has that greed and everything, but he's a softer character, a softer person.
Right, right.
But
He's still
yeah, but
curmudgeonly without being kind of bigoted.
yeah, yeah,
so,
exactly.
um,
Yeah.
I think Scrooge McDuck, and that's basically where you have to have the win if you're going to do a new DuckTales show. Is Scrooge
Oh
as
yeah,
the
yeah.
right? I think Scrooge
He is
works
the
well.
character to get right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he does. Um, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
I love the fact that
They
they're giving each of the three kids and Webby too individual characters because Huey, Dewey, and Louie were they were
yeah,
completely interchangeable. It was the green one, the purple, the blue one, and the red one.
blue one and the
that
red
was
one.
they had
Well,
no they were
they
interchangeable.
had a little bit of unique quirks and personalities in that, but it wasn't as pronounced as it is today in
Yeah.
this one. And so yeah, you've got uh, now I'm trying to remember
Oh,
all of the
yeah.
get
I'm
which
not
ones
gonna.
are
Yeah,
yeah.
one of them's a big Scrooge
Huey
McDuck fan.
Huey
One
is,
of them's the troublemaker. One of them, they give them
yeah,
personalities. And
yeah, they
Webby
do.
is not completely irritating in this one.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of memories of Webby, just because she wasn't she was a recurring character, but she wasn't in there all the time. And
Right.
in this one, she actually lives in McDuck Manor, and so she interacts with Huey, Dewey, and Louie pretty much instantly once they show up, and then yeah, she just kind of she has this fun personality of a survivor. It's kind of like what you would picture a little kid from a world like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us. She's a survivor, a prepper type character, and it's a lot of fun. I think she she doesn't have a lot of social skills, but she
Well, she lives in a
wants to.
mansion so alone.
Yeah,
So
she lives in a mansion and hasn't gotten out much, and it's like
right.
she wants to eat a hamburger.
I really did love. They have a running gag in the show where she sneaks out with Scrooge and Launchpad and the boys to go on an adventure, but doesn't tell Mrs. Beakley, who's either her mom or her aunt.
A grandmother,
Her grandmother.
grandmother, I believe.
And
Yeah.
one of the boys is trying to coach her through lying to her about sleeping over at a friend's house, and she completely fails every time. And really, that running joke worked for me. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked it.
Especially the payoff with Launchpad somehow speaking Dutch or something.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that, and it took
Launchpad seems to be even a bit. They seem to have turned Launchpad's launchpaddiness up a little bit for this show. I don't.
Yeah,
He seems to be even more. What is wrong with this dude? Than he was even in the first season, just a bit. But
I'm not really sold on Launchpad. He doesn't feel like Launchpad to me right now. One of the issues I have with Launchpad is that he has taken over the role of Scrooge's butler,
Hmm,
and chauffeur.
you're right.
In the old series, Scrooge had a chauffeur,
That
and who
tuxedo
was
dog
with
guy.
the tuxedo. That he was the chauffeur. He was the butler. He was the straight laced British guy,
Hmm.
and then you when we get in the new series, we get introduced to Launchpad in the chauffeur role, and I'm like, where's Jeeves or whatever his name is? I don't know his name. His name is Jeeves now. It's like, where is he? We've got Beakley, we've got Launchpad. Where's Jeeves? And he's not in there, and I was very disappointed because although he wasn't a major part of the show, he was one of the family, and
True, and it doesn't totally make sense for Launchpad to take over that role from Scrooge's perspective, because it's like,
yeah,
why would you have this guy around?
yeah.
I mean,
Why would
I
he?
still think his antics are pretty funny, but
Yeah,
I was a little weirded out by his omnipresence as well. He's just always there. Like, who
yeah,
invited this guy? Speaking of Beakley, she's definitely gone through the most radical change in both personality and
yes, yeah,
design. I love it personally.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think of Beakley
I like
2.0?
I like her. Yeah, she's got she's she was always a stocky character in the original show,
Hmm.
but
She
now
was bottom heavy in the original show.
yeah, she was bottom
Now
heavy.
she's top
Now
heavy.
she's
She's really broad shouldered.
yeah, broad shouldered. Her head is a lot bigger. Duckworth is the butler.
Oh, is that what I?
Thank you.
Think,
Um,
good call.
but yeah, she's very broad shouldered. Her head seems to be a larger proportion to her body than it was in the original show,
Mhm.
and and but yeah, she's a very her character now is more of a an Alfred style character to Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
You know, yeah, because with Alfred, he's always keeping Bruce Wayne grounded, Batman grounded, and it's just
Mhm.
like you you know you've got Batman duties, you've got Bruce Wayne duties. I need you to I'm there to make sure you don't screw up either one of them, and that seems what Beakley is at this time, is that her interactions with Scrooge McDuck throughout this pilot is you've got these nephews, spend some time with them. You can still be Scrooge McDuck, but these are your family. You need to, bring those lives together. And yeah, so I like that she is being used more for a mentor role and a friend role than she was in the past. So
Mhm.
that's good. I like that.
All right. How about Donald Duck? In my estimation, Donald has gained a lot more capability and competence. I mean, he still keeps the
He still
amazing
stapled
bad luck
himself
and
to a
anger.
wall, but
Well, he's incredibly unlucky, and he has a lot of anger that it does him no favors. But he's a lot more competent this time around. I'm
yeah,
thinking specifically of where he's saving one of the nephews from the fire traps.
yeah,
Uh,
and he's got the shield and he's
mhm.
blocking the fire geysers and
Yeah, I
that.
liked all that stuff. I thought it was great. And when he's
Yeah,
the room's filling up with water, and he plants his feathered butt right
yeah,
in.
he's got his butt in the big hole, and then he's just like, blink, blink.
And for to his credit, it works. You
Yeah,
know?
it does. He does a good job, and
Yeah,
then
so I'm actually kind of enjoy. I still find Donald Duck oftentimes really hard to understand. I wish they'd subtitle him, but
well,
uh,
that's part of his character is
yeah.
that he has no, he has a speech impediment, basically, and but yeah, I like that he's more of a character in this show than he was in the original, because in the original he was just there for special episodes,
Yeah,
and
and yeah, I think that what you said was right. He's more of a character and less of a cartoon character. He actually has a
yeah,
personality and a wants and needs and feelings and stuff. In fact, the first interaction, the kind of uncomfortable stare down between Donald Duck and Scrooge, was actually really well played. I was sitting there getting kind of uncomfortable with these two family members going, Scrooge, Donald. They're just kind of looking at each other like, this is actually playing really well.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I liked it. It really, to me, it really brought out that these two have a history. They don't, they get along well enough that they can talk to one another when they're in the same room, but they don't want to talk to each other. But yeah, they have a history, and that they really sold that in that scene. And
it feels like how they became somewhat estranged is going to revolve around where the nephew's mom ends up being, which I guess would be Donald's sister.
Yeah, that's what I would assume, because Donald is their uncle and Scrooge is their great uncle. So I assume that means that Scrooge is their mom's uncle, and Donald's uncle, of course. Right. And then because we do get the reveal at the end that they do actually have a mother. That was something that was never really spoken of in the original series. That these kids had parents at some point, but nobody ever referred to them. Nobody ever talked about them. Yeah. And we get an introduction of sorts to the fact that they have parents, at least a mother, and there's going to be some kind of mystery about that. And like you said, that's going to be a part of why Donald and Scrooge weren't on speaking terms at the beginning of the show.
Also, going back to Donald's competence, I think is he doesn't complete. The old Donald probably would have not figured out he was working for the bad guy for like the entire episode.
Probably.
Donald figures out like immediately that he's like, oh God, I'm working for the bad guy. And all of the excuses he comes up with to save his family are absurd and funny, but pretty smart, and they work. So again, that's another example of what I'm talking about when I say this Donald Duck has a lot more competence than
because there was one scene where the lady assassin was getting ready to throw some knives at them, and Donald's just like, crap, what do I do? And he grabs his collar and yanks it, and basically knocks himself over into the woman, and throws her aim off at the last second, and everybody just kind of brushes it off like Donald is just this klutz, and it's just like he did it on purpose, and it was amazing, and
he's like, if we kill them now, we can't torture them later. One goes like, I like the way this duck thinks. He's like, oh God. So so I really liked the opening for the new DuckTales. I think this is a show that's going to be worth a watch.
Yes, definitely.
I hope Disney XD puts more episodes out on its YouTube channel because I don't have TV.
Yeah, I don't have Disney XD either, and I saw that on YouTube, and I was just like, sweet! I was wanting to watch this, and so anytime cartoons want to show up on YouTube, legit, I'm all for that. Let's make it happen. So.
Before we move to the next topic, did you see the new Spider-Man, which is also on Disney XD?
I have not. I saw the series of shorts that they did where they introduced him and his origin and everything, but I haven't actually seen any of the. Have they had their pilot yet?
Yeah, they uploaded it today or yesterday.
Okay,
the first episode. It's only 22 minutes. it's fine.
Is
The
it better
problem
than Ultimate Spider-Man?
I haven't seen that, so I don't know. But
Okay.
the problem I have with it is it's dumbed down for little kids. And I don't mind a show targeting little kids. I just don't think you need to dumb it down for them. Kids
Yeah.
love Spider-Man. You don't need to dumb that down. And
Well,
it's
and that's something that they have done in Ultimate Spider-Man was that way. And that seems to be what the Marvel animated shows have been lately. Is just they're targeted at a young audience and directly at a young audience. It's not like Earth's Mightiest Heroes or the '90s Spider-Man or X-Men or
yeah, but
Batman
I
the
don't think
animated
little kids
series.
find
And
those shows inaccessible.
no, they don't. I've actually, my kids, when Justice League Unlimited and Justice League, when the Justice League cartoons are
Yeah.
on Netflix, they loved watching them. I would watch them with them. They love Young Justice,
Yeah.
and and I'm watching the Batman. It's the more modern take on Batman. I'm watching that with the kids, and they like that. And so I and they even they like the X-Men as well. Like when the X-Men cartoon was on Netflix, they loved watching that. But yeah, these modern the modern Marvel cartoon shows are just they're geared towards a younger audience, and they pander to that younger audience, and that drives me nuts.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me being selfish that not everything is for me. But I don't think there's a lot of value in doing that. I think when you pander to the very young audience, when you water it down or to the younger, when you do that, I don't think you gain a larger audience of small children. I think you just exclude the older audience.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know that that really does you any favors. I think just less people will watch your Spider-Man show now. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm just being selfish because this Spider-Man just isn't for me, and I want it to be because I want all Spider-Man to be to my taste because I like Spider-Man. But
Well, yeah, they did a really great job with I forget if that '90s show had if it was like Amazing or Spectacular. No, it wasn't Spectacular. I think it was Amazing Spider-Man in the '90s,
they should
and
do a
then
groovy Spider-Man set in the '60s.
and then they did Spectacular Spider-Man, which lasted only 2 seasons, and they killed that one off. That was right around the time that Disney was buying Marvel,
Mhm.
and it was also around the time where Congress and the FCC killed off Saturday morning cartoons as well. And so Spectacular Spider-Man had a pretty good running for 2 seasons, and then it was killed off along with all other Saturday morning cartoons. And then Ultimate Spider-Man came out, and gosh, was that terrible. It was just you know, teenage superhero team up with Nick Fury and Shield in it, and I didn't like it at all. And yeah, I'm going to watch as soon as I can get it. Get the time. I'm going to see if I can watch this the new one. But yeah, I watched the animated shorts, and they were okay. I think they came across a little bit better than Ultimate Spider-Man, because that one, the constant fourth wall breaking and the anime eyeballs and big heads and chibi bodies that they would do and stuff, that was annoying. I didn't like all that.
Hey, this Japan stuff is popular, right? Let's
Yeah.
crowbar it on in. Deadpool is popular, right? Let's crowbar that in too.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to see. I did like the fights in the shorts. I did like the fight scene with the Bonesaw, and I like that Bonesaw has become the definitive wrestler that he fights, and so that was good. I liked that scene, but
Yeah.
Bonesaw is ready.
Playing him in the Sam Raimi movie. Yeah, it was great. All right,
Yeah.
so moving on. What are we talking about now? Oh, Star Wars. Yes, let's talk Star Wars now. So,
yes,
um,
another Disney property.
yes, I'm actually writing a video about this. So, a lot of what I say may actually end up in a video you see, or I may not do the video if I just say everything I want to say here. It's been a weird video because I keep writing and rewriting the script because I'm not sure how I want to say this. But Star Wars is back.
Yes.
And we're getting both the numbered sequels, episode 7, 8, 9, so on. But in between those, we're getting side stories, little bonus Star Wars movies that are divorced of the main plot. And we saw they're branded as a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
We saw the first one, Rogue One, which they taught, Rogue One. You're like, oh, okay, so it's about X-Wing fighters. Turned out it was going to be about the rebel spies who obtained the plans to the original Death Star.
Yeah,
and
not the Bothans who got
that's the
plans for the second Death Star.
Any plans? They just found out that the Emperor was going to be there.
Yeah.
So, so you're like, oh, so we're gonna have a Men on a Mission movie. So, like, Guns of Navarone or The Dirty Dozen or something like that. I could totally see a Men on a Mission movie in the Star Wars universe. That's really cool. I don't think the movie was that successful at it, but that's another podcast, I suppose.
But just a quick sidebar here.
Sure.
They should do a movie about the Bothans, and it should be a Mr. Bean style comedy where the Bothans just kind of stumble through everything, and then they get picked off and die in horrific accidents throughout the whole thing, and then one final one with his last breath sends off the message. And
many Bothans died because they're terrible. They're just really incompetent, bumbling fools. I wonder if it would be more Mr. Bean or more Johnny English, because what's his name? Rowan Atkinson, I think.
Johnny English. That's the spy version.
The spy, the gentleman spy, he's basically Frank Drebin from Police Squad. Who thinks he's just the bee's knees when it comes to spies, but he's just an idiot, but he somehow stumbles into saving the world all the time. I've never really cared for Mr. Bean, but the Johnny English character is actually really well done. I was surprised when I saw it, because I was expecting Mr. Bean, and I actually got something greater, so that was nice. Anyway, so while the first A Star Wars story didn't quite float my boat, I enjoyed it too, but I have a lot of criticisms for it. But I like the idea of just playing in the vast universe of Star Wars and doing new and interesting things. I like the fact that there were, except for the very end, there were no Jedi in the movie. There was no lightsabers. It was just rebels on a mission to do a thing. We still had familiar touchstones, and it got a bit too familiar in places, I think. But I don't need anything completely foreign. But I like that idea. So what's next? Han Solo movie. I'm like, why? He's in 4 of the films. His story is done. What do you want? Young Han Solo. Like, who cares? but even young Han Solo is like, well, what exactly are you going to do with it? What kind of movie is it?
Yeah, I meant to look this up earlier, but there was a trilogy. It wasn't really a trilogy, but there were a series of books that were written about Han Solo back at around the time of the original trilogy. My parents had the trilogy novelizations on their shelf, and then they had these Han Solo novelizations, The Paradise Snare, The Hutt Gambit, and Rebel Dawn, I think.
Was
those
it
were published
Timothy
in
Vaughn,
97 to 98. I don't know. That was Anne Crispin. I wonder if
No,
there
I
was a
mean
different set of books.
the episodes 7, 8, and 9 books. Was that Timothy Vaughn or something like
Thawne?
something.
Zahn, yeah, something like that, yeah. But yeah, so there was these Han Solo books, and I actually read them, and they were pretty decent stories, but it's not like
Sure, but
the Han Solo Adventures. I was looking at the wrong one. This is the Han Solo at Star's End, Han Solo's Revenge, and Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. The titles I read out earlier were from the late 90s. These were actually 79 and 80 were the publishing years. And I read these, and they were good stories, but
sure.
it's just I don't see, you know, I think they're making the Han Solo movies just because of the fan love for the character, not really
Yes.
out of any desire to tell any kind of interesting stories. They're just like, fans really love Han Solo. Let's give them more Han Solo.
Right. Here's I'm not saying there are no good Han Solo movies you could make. I'm sure you could tell a great Han Solo story, but when you start out going, okay, we're going to have a Men on the Mission movie, it's like, oh, I could totally see that happen to Star Wars. We're going to watch the Rebels and how they stole the plans for the original Death Star. I'm like, that could be really super cool. We're going to have a Han Solo movie, and Lando's going to be in it, and the Millennium Falcon, and Chewie. It's like, oh,
what kind of
movie are we talking about that? So we've got a Han Solo movie coming out. And it was just confirmed that they're starting production on a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. And again, I'm like, why? He's in 6 of the 7 films, 7 main films. He's in all the damn cartoons too. We don't need it. I mean, it's not like there's nothing you could do with the character, no other eras of his life you could explain, or dramatize. But it's like, why?
I'm not at all sold on Obi-Wan Kenobi, because really the only era that they could really mine for stories is the time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
What was he doing hanging around the desert?
It's like, what was he doing for that 15, 20 years or whatever it was? It's like, he's hanging out in the desert, based on his, they did an episode in Star Wars Rebels where Darth Maul finally figures out where Obi-Wan Kenobi is and tries to go there to get his revenge. And based on that encounter, it's just like, for all intents and purposes, Obi-Wan Kenobi's just been hanging out on Tatooine this entire time. It's like, because his purpose is to protect Luke Skywalker, and it's
Obi-Wan killed the Krayt Dragon.
Yeah, it's like, okay, what can you do? If you take him off world, then he's not fulfilling his duty, because anything could happen to Luke Skywalker while he's gone, and so I don't think that there's really a lot of good material for the rumor has been that they were wanting to do an Obi-Wan trilogy, but I'm just like, there's no way they could do a trilogy. There's just not enough interesting going on with it.
Here's an interesting idea for an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi is dead now. In fact, in episodes 5 and 6, he's Ghost Kenobi. So what if we did a Star Wars haunted house movie with Ghost Kenobi haunting somebody?
Ooh, yeah. Or maybe they do maybe they do a Obi-Wan Kenobi style, or a Ghost Obi-Wan Kenobi movie in the style of Dead Man from the DC universe. Where he's a Force ghost,
but he's trying
to fulfill some mission, and he has to figure out ways of interacting with the people and stuff in order to Rube Goldberg his mission into success.
See, I was thinking he was just bored, and Luke and all of them have long ago died, and he's just bored but still kicking around. So he's just being a dick and haunting people,
Yeah.
rattling chains and stuff.
But unfortunately, I don't think you could do the Force Ghost thing, because Alec Guinness
do the Conjuring in the Star Wars universe with Ghost Kenobi just messing with the family.
That's good.
What happened to you, Ben? You used to be a Jedi, and now you're messing with the family. So,
yeah.
So not only do we have, we have Han Solo, which comes out next year, and we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is just starting production. But we've also heard that they're also thinking about doing a Yoda movie, a Boba Fett movie. And I think Variety just came out a couple days ago with they're thinking about a Jabba the Hutt movie also. Here's where, and I'm not saying there's nothing you could do with any of these movies, right? I mean, Jabba the Hutt, he's a gangster, so okay, do a Goodfellas style movie, or do The Godfather with Jabba the Hutt, right? I don't know if you could pull off Scarface with Jabba the Hutt unless you had a very young and svelte Jabba the Hutt. But you could totally have a mobster movie in the Star Wars universe. That would work. Boba Fett's a bounty hunter, so I guess that kind of gives you some inkling of what you might see in a Boba Fett movie. But I'm not sure what you'd do with a Yoda movie. Here's the problem I have. It feels like, this is not necessarily the case, of course, but it feels like Disney is just picking popular things, Yoda, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and saying, make a movie about the popular stuff, instead of saying, okay, here's the kind of story or feeling or something we want to get across. Now let's pick the best elements from the Star Wars universe, characters, locations, and stuff like that, that enhances the story we want to tell. I mean, if Boba Fett would, it's like, okay, we want to do a mad world style Star Wars movie where a bunch of people are racing to get to a place to get a thing, right? Okay, well, maybe we could just have a bunch of different bounty hunters who are all competing to get a certain target. Well, that would be a fine case to throw in Boba Fett and IG-88 and a bunch of others, right? Or if you had a bunch of smugglers, competing groups of smugglers, all competing over the same contraband to deliver it to the client. That would be a fine one for Han Solo to show up in. So I mean, if you're saying, okay, here's our slate of Star Wars movies, if you say, okay, we've got Star Wars, The Great Bounty Hunt, or Star Wars, Smuggler's Run, that's more interesting. That's more provocative to me than Star Wars, Han Solo, Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Star Wars, Boba Fett. It's like, and to be fair, I'm sure the movies are not going to be called Star Wars Yoda. Yeah, I'm sure it's young Han Solo is not actually going to be called Young Han Solo. At least I hope not. They'll probably have better names for these, but it just feels like they're just like, who's popular? Not Jar Jar. Yeah, we know that. Who's popular? Yoda. Okay, make a Yoda movie. About what? Don't care. Make a Yoda movie. That's what it's feeling like.
Yeah.
And while these movies may turn out to be great, it's not exciting. To me, it's not exciting at this point.
Yeah, and I agree with you there, and it's there's so much more that they could do, and while I understand Disney's desire to start fresh with the Star Wars universe, and they kind of took the original extended universe and said this is no longer part of canon, and doing so, they got rid of a lot of garbage stories, which was good. But they also got rid of a lot of interesting stories and things and elements. And they're bringing back some of those. Like they've got now I can't remember his name, and I feel bad. The blue-faced guy.
Oh, Thrawn,
Thrawn,
General
yes,
Thrawn,
Thrawn,
something
General,
like that.
yeah, Admiral
Blue
Thrawn.
face, red
Uh,
eyes, right?
yeah,
Admiral, that's right.
yeah, they brought him back. They brought other
He's
elements
on
back, but
the show, right? Rebels.
yeah, he's in the Rebels. He's in Rebels, and then Timothy Thawne has written new stories with him in it, which is good. But yeah, they've done that. But there's all, they could do movies with, pull in some of the good elements of these old books and rewrite them in a way that they fit into the new Disney canon, and make movies about that. But one of the issues with that, though, is that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, and Mark Hamill is old, and so is Harrison Ford.
Well,
So
he's
you can't
dead too. So
really.
Solo's dead, not Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Solo is, but yeah.
Spoilers
So
for
so
2-year-old movie.
yeah, but yeah, but they can take those elements from those books, make new movies. But there's also a whole thousands upon thousands years worth of lore and story elements that they could mine and write new stories for.
Sure.
Tell a story about the
The
rise
Old
of the
Republic.
Jedi Order.
Yeah.
The founding of the the Republic, the Old Republic.
Mhm.
Write stories about that. It's like,
Sure.
what in the world happened that caused an entire galaxy to band together and form a unified central government? What
Mhm.
what galaxy spanning disaster resulted in that need to form that government? Surely something interesting had to have happened
Was it a giant
to
space
make that.
laser?
Yeah, it was a giant space whale. But no, but yeah, you've got that. You've got the rise of the Jedi Order, the original Sith. It's like,
Mhm.
tell a story about the first Sith. That would be cool. Yeah. So I would love to see Disney doing something more in the history side of things, and because right now they're just focusing around the main characters, they're
Yeah.
focusing the main timeline, and that's just,
Right, but there's got to be
eventually they're going to run
more.
out of
Yeah,
stuff.
my point is there's got to be more interesting things going on in the Star Wars universe than the events revolving around the lives of characters we've already spent a bunch of movies with. Um, I'm all for just you don't need any of the. For example, one of my ideas is do an anthology movie.
Yeah.
I love anthology movies, and I mean, for your framework, you could just use the Mos Eisley Cantina, right? I'm sure weird crap happens there all the time. You could have the cantina just be your framing device, and just have a bunch of weird stories
There
go
was
in and out of the cantina. If you want, you can have Han shoot
there
Greedo in
was
the
a
background scene.
yeah. There was a book about an
Cantina
anthology
Tales.
book with Cantina Tales. They did this. They did one with Jabba's palace, and
Mm.
and then they did the Tales of the Bounty Hunters, like the 6 bounty hunters uh, um, that were hired by Darth
You could
Vader.
even do just
And
like a police procedural with some local uh, police peoples who are trying to solve some crime, but keep stormtroopers. The Empire gets in the way. Something like Infernal
Cheers in
Affairs or
Space. I love that. I love that. That's thank
Cheers in
you.
Space, yeah.
Born Distracted. Yeah, I like that framing there.
Or let's see,
Droids the movie.
Droids the movie. Oh yeah.
But yeah.
How about a siege movie like Assault on Precinct 13? A bunch of people get trapped
Yeah.
in a place and besieged by some gooey Star Wars monster. I mean, what if there are? I mean, you don't have to be completely divorced. I mean, you can jam it in somewhere in the timeline. Like, what if a few of the last stragglers of the rebels at the base on Hoth, after the Battle of Hoth, there's 10 stragglers left, and they get stuck in the half-ruined rebel base, and they get surrounded and attacked by a bunch of angry Wampas. And no help is coming because the Empire is still floating in their damn Star Destroyers right in the upper atmosphere. Do a siege movie.
That would be kind of cool. And one of the things I love about the Rebels cartoon show is that they are telling a story in the Star Wars universe. It's tied to the movies, but it's characters that we've never met before. And they are having adventures that we've never seen before. They interact occasionally with characters from the original trilogy and the old,
sure,
the prequel trilogies, but those are guest stars. They're not part of the story, and that is how I imagine the Star Wars extended universe movies being, and that's what I would find interesting. Just as as you were saying, with all your ideas, is that is the prime example of what these movies should be, I think.
What a film noir set in Star Wars universe, where a gruff private detective is trying to solve what was supposed to be a simple crime, but it turns out to be this vast conspiracy that goes all the way up to the Emperor or something.
Yeah,
cool.
Good stuff there.
I was thinking, I'm not excited by Disney saying, okay, we're going to have a Han Solo movie and a Yoda movie and a Boba Fett movie, but when Marvel does it, it's okay, right? I get all excited. We're going to have a Spider-Man movie and a Doctor Strange movie and a Captain Marvel movie and a Black Panther movie. And I thought to myself, what's the difference? I think the difference is when you say we're making a Spider-Man movie, I know what a Spider-Man movie is. It's about a kid with awesome powers who's trying to balance his social life with superhero and completely screwing it up. And he swings webs and does that. You know what Spider-Man is.
Yeah, exactly.
Doctor Strange. Oh, okay. Wizard with reality warping powers. Okay, I have an idea of what that kind of movie is. But because the characters, the superheroes, are kind of genres in and of themselves. Han Solo is not a genre in and of itself. There's a bunch of stuff you could do with him. He's a smuggler. He's a general in the Rebel Army. He was a young guy at some point doing something, I guess. I don't know. Went back smuggling his later days. Maybe he's a Force ghost now. Who knows? But when you say a Han Solo movie, and this gets to how I titled this podcast, it would be like if Marvel said, and we're doing a Pepper Potts movie. We'd all be like, what? Don't you like Pepper Potts? Well, yeah, we all love Pepper, but I have no concept of what a Pepper Potts movie would be, or what an Aunt May movie would be.
It would be like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but 2 Weeks Notice with I'm forgetting the actress's name now, but she's a lawyer, a lawyer slash environmental activist, and then she ends up getting hired by this big business guy, and but yeah, it is a weird movie. My wife loves it, and maybe that would be the Pepper Potts movie. But we don't know, because Pepper Potts as a character in the Marvel movies, she's just kind of she's there as a support character, supporting role for Iron Man.
Precedence, at least that I can think of, as what a film revolving around that character would be. Yeah. I mean, it would be like, hey, do you like Jaws? It's like, yeah, it's one of my top 5 movies of all time. Well, we're going to make another Jaws movie, and it's going to revolve around Matt Hooper. It's like, what? We're going to make a Matt Hooper movie. Why? Is he fighting a shark? I mean, is it just... I have no concept of what that would even be. or yeah, we're gonna make a J. Jonah Jameson movie. Is it? It's gonna be like Network or something. I don't know what you would do.
Yeah.
With that. I'm not saying that the problem. Really, the problem is it feels like Disney is picking popular stuff and saying make a movie about it, rather than saying, "Ooh, we could do this cool thing." You've got this entire Star Wars toy box to play in it. So I love Star Wars. I hope these movies, whatever they turn out to be, are great. I really do. But just being a Yoda movie does nothing for me. So
yeah. But yeah, hopefully they come up with some good ideas, and hopefully they realize that maybe just picking a character out of a hat and making a movie about that character is not the best way to go.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you can do it that way, I suppose, but that's kind of working the wrong way around, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, all right, let us. I know it's after 8, but that's all right. Let's move to our last topic. We both finished Marvel's The Defenders on Netflix. I bought a month of Netflix yesterday and watched 5 episodes last night and 3 episodes this morning. And so we're going to spoil this. So if you have not watched Defenders yet and are concerned about spoilers, thanks for watching. Yeah. We'll catch you later.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of hard not to talk about, it's kind of hard to talk about the show and not drop spoilers from time to time. Let's try to give a spoiler-free thoughts for like the next 5-10 minutes or whatever, and then get into the spoilers. That way people can at least get an impression of what we want to talk about without us screwing things up.
Here are my broadest high-level thoughts on the Defenders. Danny Rand is still terrible. Actually, it's not Danny Rand so much as it is Iron Fist. Iron Fist just sucks at life. He's terrible. I don't like the show. I thought it was bad. That's not to say there was nothing I enjoyed. There's a lot I enjoyed. There are many, many bright spots and many, many great moments, but overall, I don't think the show works as a show because it is built around the worst stuff from Daredevil season 2, which would be Elektra, the Black Sky, and the Hand, and all of Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Basically, of 2 seasons of Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, what's the worst stuff? Well, the half of season 2 of Daredevil and all of Iron Fist. They used all of that stuff to build their Defenders movie, and it suffers, in my opinion, because of it.
That was the goal to begin with, I believe. At least once they realized, we're going to make all these characters, and then we're going to do a crossover thing. Yeah. They had to do something that pulled them all together, and unfortunately, they didn't have an opportunity to really bring Luke Cage and Jessica Jones into that world until Defenders, and they had to do some really Deus Ex Machina type stuff to get Jessica Jones into the world.
Yeah, I think they handled it okay.
Yeah, they handled it okay, but it was just kind of convenient for the plot.
Sure.
And
well, the problem was none of it really tied in strongly to what Jessica Jones or Luke Cage were doing, either specifically or even really thematically to an extent. I will say, I really let me be positive for a moment here. I loved in the beginning, in the first couple of episodes before our characters met, it jumps around between all our 4 different heroes, and it transitions between the each scene with like a shot of a subway car, which is a nice, okay, we're moving somewhere else now. I liked the transitions between the scenes. I also really liked the fact that they color graded each character's portion of the story. Jessica Jones's portion, it has a blue haze. Daredevil's is red. Luke Cage is yellow, and Iron Fist is green. Green Dragon? What? And it's subtle, and a lot of it is in the costuming and the set design, but it's a really, I thought it was a brilliant way of very clearly differentiating between all of these 4 different places before they came together. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was wonderful. Jessica Jones is great. Luke Cage is pretty great.
Snarky and everything.
Daredevil's working for me. And even Danny Rand, once they get together, their camaraderie, their repartee is really wonderful. And Luke Cage and Danny Rand you can see these guys becoming friends. Regardless of what
they
you
do
think
have
about Danny Rand
a good chemistry.
They have great chemistry.
And I think that helped out a lot with Danny's character, because with in the Iron Fist show, it was all about him, and he was the central character. Everything bad that happened in that show was all his fault.
Everything bad that happens in this show is his fault too.
Yes, that too. I was going to get to that, but it was just nobody in the Iron Fist show really slapped Danny Rand upside the head and told him, you're an idiot. But in this one, they do that constantly. They're like, shut up, you're a moron. and it's great. I love it. And it helps him become a better character. You actually see him being a better character after he gets slapped around a few times.
Luke Cage has a nice moment where he talks to him about privilege and what he's doing and things like that. And Danny, actually, to his credit, takes a bit to think on that and tries to approach, re-examine what he's doing and approach things a different way. And that was nice to see. And once he gets with the other 4, they kind of change his character. I'm sorry, the other 3. They kind of change his character into a naive and optimistic guy, which works because the other 3 are fairly brooding characters. Like, guys, let's team up and be super friends and go get the bad guy, golly gee whiz. And that 4th episode where they're all sitting around eating dinner works, and worked well. Enough to kind of make you forget about Danny being an awful person. But at least this show, if there's anything worse than an awful person in a show, it's when the show itself doesn't realize the person's awful. This show seems to realize that Danny sucks. And I think we're going to start getting into a bit of spoilers here. Danny, while as a human being, one of the biggest problems with the Iron Fist show is Danny Rand as a person was a genuinely terrible human being. And it made no sense and actually hurt Colleen Wing's character that the script said she had to love the guy. Even in this show, it's not totally clear why she hangs out with this dude, because he's still just... I'm not seeing any reason why she would like him, at all. But Danny himself is not as horrible a piece of poop person that he was in the first show. But he's still a terrible Iron Fist. And he's so bad at Iron Fisting that all of the other characters, good and bad, point this out. Like Madame Gowan, she's like, oh my God, I have known a bunch of Iron Fists in my long life. You are by far the worst Iron Fist who has ever Iron Fisted. I'm not kidding. Iron Fist in the comics, he's supposed to be like the best, one of the best martial artists in the entire world. Fighting is his thing. This Iron Fist is not even a very good fighter.
Yeah, the
show opens with him getting his ass kicked. Everyone kicks his ass. Jessica Jones kicks his ass.
Yeah. When Iron Fist and Luke Cage first meet and they're fighting because Luke Cage is trying to rescue that troubled youth, and Iron Fist is trying to find the hand, and they come together because they're both after this one kid, and then I think it was just one of the best fights in the series, because here is Danny Rand, the Iron Fist, going all kung fu on Luke Cage, who's just standing there. It's like, Danny Rand is karate chopping a mountain here. The mountain doesn't move, and Luke Cage just every once in a while will just whack Danny and knock him on his butt, and then eventually Danny gets fed up, goes full Iron Fist and just clocks Luke Cage across the face, and it goes in slow motion. You see this.
Yeah, it's a callback to the guy that breaks his fist on Cage's face in the Luke Cage show. This is Iron Fist busting up Cage's face. But the problem I had with that, while that fight is actually very cathartic, the problem I have with it is Danny Rand just looks like an incompetent fighter. I mean, while he wouldn't be able to really do anything, he just like you're saying, punching a mountain. Luke Cage should not be able to get a hit in on Danny Rand.
No, he shouldn't, and he is constantly hitting.
Yeah, he's constantly smacking him down. Danny should be a good enough fighter that neither Luke Cage or Jessica Jones can lay a damn hand on him. They're both stronger than he is, except for the Iron Fist part. But he should be just completely outclassing them. But everyone kicks Iron Fist's butt. I think probably my favorite Danny moment was in, I think, this second to last episode, where he finally gets through the door, which again is Iron Fist screwing up. She tricks him into opening the door. It's like, oh my God, did you not see this? You are the worst, Danny.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching that entire scene. I'm like, she's trying to get him mad. She wants him to get his fist glowing so that she can lure him into this door, and he falls for everything. And I'm just sitting here. I'm like, seriously, Danny, you are a moron. She wants you to do this.
So he's hiding out in the tunnel, right? And there's two guys with power tools harvesting the life-giving powder from the dinosaur bones or the dragon bones or whatever. Yeah. So he's doing the Sam Fisher thing. He's sneaking around in the shadows, and he grabs one of the dudes and he pulls him back into the shadows. Oh. And then he just walks right out into the middle of the hallway, and the other guy at the end who's got his part, he's like, really? You're not going to stealth up on me? You're just going to walk out? All right, dude. So he goes after him with a power tool, and Danny takes him out, and then immediately gets caught by Madame Gao. I'm like, oh my God, you are the worst. He takes out one guy, and he just jumps right out in the middle of the hallway.
Yeah.
There's still another guy using a power tool. It's not like you couldn't know he was there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact scene, but there was another scene where, or it might even be the same scene, but I was just like, it's like, okay, you're hiding. You've got all these guys. Why aren't you sneaking up on these guys and taking them out? And that happens. It happened enough that it made an impression on me, but I can't remember the specific things. But yeah, that one did stand out. And it's just none of the characters are really trying. It's, with Luke Cage, he never really had to do any kind of stealthing or anything. He was just always
Jessica and Luke Cage are just brawlers.
And Luke Cage is more of a tank than a brawler.
Yeah. Nothing hurts him.
Yeah,
Jessica Jones will stealth if she needs to, because she she's super strong, but she's not
she
taking
still
a punch
is.
well.
Yeah. She could, you could shoot her and she'll bleed and stuff. But yeah, she could knock you senseless, and she does that, and but yeah, so they have their style of fighting, and yeah, they do their style of fighting very well throughout the show, and but. I think the biggest weakness is with Danny Rand, of course, but Daredevil is also a weak point in the show too, because a lot of the stuff that goes on revolves around him as well. It's like, the story is basically Daredevil and Iron Fist dealing with the Hand, and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage tag along, and
they both have personal reasons to be there, and Jessica's like, look, I just want to get this thing for my client, and then I'm out. And Luke Cage is like, look, I'm just after this one guy because because he got someone over in Harlem in trouble. I'm just doing it for that person. Another thing, that one kid who dies in prison, and the mom finds out, and she breaks down because this is her, all three of her kids are dead now. That had me welling up. That actor sold that scene. That was incredibly well staged.
That was a good scene. Yeah,
so
I like that.
Kudos to them. That one brought a tear to this cold-hearted person's eye. What were some other things? Oh, I liked what they did with Elektra's new costume, because it's a lot more reminiscent of the classic look in the comics. But she wore an overcoat over it for most of the 8 episodes. I'm like, well, what was the point?
Yeah,
she had a really cool outfit with the the flap in the front and the back, and the arm things. And I'm like, that's classic Elektra, and they put her in an overcoat through most of them. I don't know why. Also, these are so low budget. I'm surprised Disney doesn't throw more money at them, because when we're in full spoilers, guys. Stick loses his hand. They didn't even bother to do anything. Now, apparently, they don't have the budget to paint out his hand. They're painting out some wires, but that's about it. Maybe do some replacements. But I don't know if Scott Glenn was being a pain in the butt, but they did nothing. No forced perspective. No, he just had his hand hanging down there, and he just did not care. I mean, it was. There's actually one shot that works, and the rest of them are like they didn't even care.
It's like anytime you actually see him or see his missing hand, they had it bandaged up, but it still hung out far enough out of his coat that it just looked like a fist wrapped in bandages. And
I mean, his right sleeve is longer than its left, but you have to do some forced perspective or kind of hold your arm up a little bit. And Scott Glenn was just I do have the actor's name right? He's just having none of that. Stick was having. There's one shot that's straight on where it looks like they're either doing forced perspective or he had his more material in his shirt to hold his arm up a little higher so that his stump was about at wrist level instead of down here at finger level. But that was distracting. I'm like, guys, if you're not going to even try, keep his arm below frame or something. Come on.
Yeah, they did that for most of his scenes. Was his arm was below frame, but yeah, that was a but him cutting his own hand off, that was cool though.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and nice to see Misty finally lost her arm. Although I'm surprised she's like, this arm again. I thought she'd say something. It's like, fate has it out for my right arm.
Yeah, I was not to wallow in somebody else's misery, but it was finally nice to see her lose her arm, and but and I expect between Stark Tech and Wakanda Tech and Rand Development and stuff, they'll be able to get a bionic arm, reminiscent of Winter.
She's gonna have this badass bionic arm. She's gonna wear long sleeves the entire show. It's like, why?
Get long sleeves and a glove.
Let's see what else. You know what I found was interesting is incapacitated Danny is best Danny. When he was tied to a chair and added the action, the show is fine. When he's unconscious Danny is best Danny. They knock his ass out at some point, and it's like, oh, the show's fine now. But yeah, let's talk about the villains. So Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver plays Alexandra,
Right.
who's one of the Five Hand members.
The leader of the
leader.
I guess she's the thumb, or I don't know which one that would be.
The thumb, there's that parable. It's like, the fingers are arguing over who's the best finger, and then the thumb comes out. It's like, well, I want to see each of you guys try to pick up that piece of paper, and they're all like, oh, I can't do it, and then thumb comes out. And it's like, look at me, and when you work with me, you can pick up the paper, and so thumb's the leader of the pack, and so yeah.
I love Sigourney Weaver. The character sucked, and here's my argument. I liked the fact that I was really intrigued that the first time she and Madame Gao are together, and Gao is completely subservient to Alexandra. I'm like, ooh, because we've seen Madame Gao mop the floor with people. She's an old biddy who's walks hunched over with a cane.
You see her several times, and she knocks a door.
She doesn't
and
even need an iron fist to punch through a wall. That's how badass she is. So you're like, okay, I get why she's a criminal, lord figure who runs it, because she can knock you through a wall. She doesn't need to make her fist work.
There's a pallet of cinder blocks that she sends across a parking garage.
And she doesn't even need to make contact. She's almost doing a force push.
Yeah.
So if she is subservient to Alexandra, wow, I'm interested to see what this woman's got. She got nothing. She can fight somewhat.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, she beats up some goons.
She beats up, or she incapacitates Elektra immediately after Elektra is resurrected and is incredibly weak and is not thinking straight and doesn't have all of her fighting skill knowledge back yet. So, but that's it. She does absolutely nothing. She's a bag of hot air. She has nothing to actually back up and her plans are stupid. And all the other fingers are like, your plans are stupid and they're not going to work. And they're right. The Black Sky is a stupid plan that doesn't work. And it clearly is not going to work. She's like, well, you've remembered you'll remember all language and fighting, but none of your personality. It's like, well, that's clearly not true throughout the show, and you should be seeing this. But also, you've been revived how many times, and you're still the same person, right? So why do you think that's any different for the Black Sky? Either way, if you are so badass that Madame Gao doesn't really want to take you on, just go get Danny Rand yourself. What do you need the Black Sky for? Just do it yourself if you're that badass. It makes no damn sense. And it's not very satisfying either. It's like, oh, we just need Danny Rand to open a door so we can get our magic revive powder because we ran out. Okay. I mean, why do you need to go through the door? Just dig around it. I don't get it. Well, is that a magical portal to somewhere else, or?
No, I think it was because when they get the blueprints and they're looking at it and they're like, oh, there's this giant dome down there, and from just based on that, I assume that it's some kind of magical force field around this dragon skeleton. Maybe not just a dome, but also a full-on spherical force magical shield around it that no amount of digging could get you in there, and so that door-sized tablet thing is the actual lock that removes the magical shell, and that's why they needed them. But yeah, it was just kind of
It wasn't
a
really presented very clearly because you see this stone tablet that apparently Iron Fist needs to touch with this glowy bit to open. But the way it's presented, you're like, just dig around it. Why do you?
Yeah.
What's the point? Unless this is a gate blocking a portal to the Kunlun dimension.
Yeah,
or
you see
something.
that was one of
That's
the
not clear.
that was one of the things that that I thought about originally. Like when I was first watching that, I was like, "What is it they're trying to get to?" And my thoughts immediately went to, well, Kunlun doesn't stay in the Tibetan mountains all the time. Like it disappears
Right.
and only shows up every 15 years or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, where does it go? And I was thinking, well, what if
Does it go down there?
Yeah, I was thinking, what if it zips around, different places in this dimension and in others, and one of those places is underneath New York City in this? And I was like, well, maybe that's what it is. Is there, that's where Kunlun is at
Iron
that
Fist
time, and
Kunlun is there now.
yeah, and that's why they need the Iron Fist, so they could get in there and get what they need. But no, it didn't turn out to be that. And I was very disappointed when all it was a big dragon skeleton. I was just like, oh.
It's like, oh, we're using powdered dragon bones to revive ourselves. If you guys were that low, why were you wasting it on Harold Meacham?
Yeah.
I mean, Harold, I think, got his revival juice like 20 years ago. Maybe they had more back then, and they've just been using it. I mean, because he would be pretty valuable because of the Rand company. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah, the show just doesn't work. Again, there's a lot. I liked pretty much everything except anything having to do with Iron Fist, Black Sky, Alexandria, or the Hand, which unfortunately is a big part of the show.
Yeah, and overall, of all the Hand, the only character that I really enjoyed was Madame Gao, and that was because we've already been invested with her because we saw her in Daredevil and we saw her in Iron Fist, and we got to know her a little bit more. They did bring back the first season Daredevil villain, as he was one of the other Hand. And supposedly he was dead, but I guess he was.
Wait, that's a different guy. That's not Nobu. That's a different guy.
Oh, is it a different guy?
They say that he was the guy pulling the strings behind Nobu, who did die and then came back and then died again.
Okay. See, I thought it was the same guy, but I
it's a different
didn't really pay attention to the actors. But
I don't.
But yeah, the South Africa or the African guy. I don't even remember his name. And then
Wanda, something like that, something
like
weird.
that.
Bokudo is the other dude, the bearded dude who runs the Hand College.
Yeah, and he was.
He show has no budget.
Yeah, he was another Hand member. I'm like, that's kind of he didn't really come across as one of the Hand at all. He seemed like a just in Iron Fist he just seemed like a captain, a lieutenant or whatever.
Yeah,
and in the Hand army he didn't. Yeah, he didn't.
Lame. I don't like him.
I didn't like him either. I was happy to see
killed again.
Killed again, yeah. But yeah, and Madame Gao again. She was the only one who actually survived the entire show up until the end. Where she the building collapsed on top of her. Everybody else either got killed by Alexander got killed by Elektra. The black guy got killed by Stick. Let's see.
Bokudo got killed by
Colleen, and then
Claire and Misty.
Yeah, and then
who else?
The other guy, the guy who fights animals. I forget his name.
The Japanese guy who's
the Japanese guy. He got impaled on
a piece of rebar
or something, and I'm just like, when did that happen? It's like you see him at the end, and he's impaled on this rebar, and I'm like, I don't remember that happening to him. Did he get? Yeah, I'm
The
like,
fight
was
scene-
he fighting on the elevator and get thrown over, and I just missed it, or
a lot of
what?
the fight scenes are not very well shot either. They're
Yeah.
dark, and I know they're hiding stunt doubles, but they're poorly lit. They're edited all to hell. It's hard to follow what's going on. There was one moment that stuck out where some guy just went flying. I'm like, who kicked that person? They just went. I'm like, it felt like there was a shot missing.
Yeah.
And someone just went flying. I'm like, how did that happen? Um,
Yeah.
Nintendo, Disney needs just throw more money at this because it's so clear they have no budget.
Well, I think Netflix is actually fronting the cash for these. I
Oh,
think that's what it is. Yeah, it's
huh.
just Netflix is funding these, and
Oh, well, okay.
yeah,
Disney throw some extra cash their way because they have no money to do anything.
yeah,
That's why everything is so boring looking and everything takes place in a damn warehouse. Or the hand, which is, the secret ninja group is at a damn college. It's just shot on a college campus. It's so lame. I mean, this is the
yeah.
kind of, hopefully Mystery Science Theater 3000 takes, or Rift Tracks or someone, yeah, go ahead. You've got a lot of material here because it's just absurd how cheap some of this stuff is.
Yeah.
I mean, they did okay with the building explosion and collapse. It actually turned out a little. I was going, oh god, this is going to be embarrassingly bad, but it turned out being
It turned
TV
out pretty
level
good.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right, but overall, I think I had a lot of fun watching it. It definitely isn't
yeah,
the best TV ever, but I think it was.
it's not as bad as Iron Fist.
Yeah, it was not as bad as Iron Fist. It wasn't as bad as the second half of Daredevil, but it wasn't as good as Daredevil season 1 or Jessica Jones. Those are definitely still the
I,
best
yeah, I
there is.
problematic as I
Yeah.
had problems I had with it. Despite the problems I had with it, I'd say Luke Cage is better too. And I'd
At
put
least the first half of Luke Cage.
yeah, I'd put season 2 of Daredevil above it too, just because what worked, mainly the Punisher stuff, works really, really well.
Yeah, see that's what I mean. Like Daredevil season 2, the first half is really good. The same thing with Luke Cage. It's their second halves that just kind of fall flat for me.
Yeah.
And so
Also,
yeah,
I was glad to see that this was only 8 episodes
8 episodes.
instead of
Yeah,
13. But even at 8 episodes, it was still about one episode too long. It's like episode 5 or 6 or something where it just spins its wheels. Everyone knows that the Hand is trying to get Danny because he's the key to a something, and they just kind of stand around talking about it for the entire episode, and it's so boring. It's like, well, we ordered it. We're going to make 8 episodes. It's like, it's okay if you do 7.
yeah, but at least they didn't try to fit
Split
the
out the
full
13,
13
yeah.
episodes in, and that was good. I was glad to see that. What did you think of the teaser trailer for Punisher that came out at the end? There
Doesn't
wasn't a
show
lot
anything,
in it.
so
It was just
yeah, they're still shooting it, so they don't really have any footage. It's just John Bernthal pounding the ground, the cement with a sledgehammer, whatever. I mean, I'm excited that there's a Punisher show coming out because I think that could be very, very cool. But
the previews that were at Comic-Con, the IO9 said that it was really brutal because it was just the Punisher killing like 3 different dudes or going after 3 different dudes and killing a bunch of people, and there were some pretty brutal deaths, they said, and so
I think
see how they fleshed out the full series.
The Hand seems to be pretty much done with. I mean, Madame Gao is still around, but
well, I don't know if she's still around or not. But since a huge spoiler here for anybody that watched the last episode but didn't actually watch to the end, Daredevil did not actually die, so it's pretty possible that Madame Gao is still alive and Elektra. So
hi, Tyson. So, yeah, I'm real. Kill off Iron Fist. Just kill the character. Get another one.
Yeah, get another Iron Fist. I'm sure there's
kill off Danny Rand and slot in Colleen as the fourth defender, or Claire, or Misty, or Foggy. Anybody, really, anybody would be fine. Or the Punisher. It's fine. Anybody. Just he's terrible, and he's a lousy person. I want that anyone puts up with him. He's also just a genuinely terrible Iron Fist. I mean, the character is bad at his Iron Fisting duties. He's not even a good fighter. Everyone kicks his butt. He's just terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Disney, Netflix, Marvel, all y'all. I want a great Iron Fist, but this is not it. Get rid of him. There's many different people have been an Iron Fist. Just get a new one.
Yeah.
This one don't work. He's poison.
Definitely want to see more Colleen and Misty and Claire, and even get Trish in there as Hellcat.
Yeah.
Do a Daughters of the Dragon series
with
those 4 characters in it. Yeah, because the Daughters of the Dragon is Colleen and Misty in the comics, but
just the two.
But Claire and Trish, get those 2 in, because both of them have shown that they have fighting chops. Because in Jessica Jones, Trish kicks some butt in there, and Claire kicks some butt in Iron Fist. And
Trish also clearly is training in Krav Maga or something like that. So they show that.
Yeah, and so do a show just with those 4 characters. I would watch that. They're good characters.
Get Colleen away from Danny Rand, because he is hurting her character. He's making her a bad character.
Yeah.
Because you end up like, Colleen, why are you hanging around this doofus? I don't get it. I can see that he's just a lost person looking for his family. It's like, all of us are like, you're just a scared little boy. We get it. But again, why are you following this guy? Just, cut bait and run.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 2 hours that we've been talking about stuff. Most of our audience has gone to bed, so that's okay. It's a long show. So we're gonna take our leave now. So Andrew Eisen here. Eisen is how you spell the last name. Plug it into YouTube, and you can find my videos, including my current series debut review, which, if you watch Friday's episode, I finally found one I liked, and it was about the love lives of high school kids, which really surprised me. That I was like, oh god, this is gonna suck. But watching it was really charming and funny, and So I've watched, I think, that's like episode 10 or 11 or something like that. I've recorded about 17 in total this season, and I found 2 shows that I actually like. It's been a bad season for anime. I also found one show that I utterly despised. Let's see, when is that coming up? That's coming up on, that's going to be Wednesday's show. Oh, man. I don't think I've ever used the word repugnant so much. Anyway, you can also follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen, and support me on Patreon. Over at Patreon, please. Here's an interesting thing. The super chat, that little dollar thing on the chat. If you want to give me money, and I hope you do, that's probably the worst way to do it, because someone donated $5 via the super chat option. I got $2.41 of it.
That is insane.
Wow. Now, I think I might actually get a higher percentage of YouTube ad revenue. But I mean, if you send me $5 via PayPal, I end up with like $4.95 or something like that. If you support me on Patreon at $1 a month, I get like 92 cents of that or something like that. So supporting me on, giving me, donating money through PayPal or Patreon or even YouTube ad revenue. Most of the money actually gets to me, but wow, Super Chat is just, most of it goes to Google. Although Google Wallet seems to just move all the money to me, because someone gave me $5 through Google Wallet and I got all the $5. So
Nice.
There's some advice if you are sitting there thinking, you know what I'd like to do with my money? I'd like to give it to some guy on the internet.
Yeah.
So, Zachary, plug away.
All right, and you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night, where I talk about gaming and politics and other things. You can also follow my game development work at DK_gaming on Twitter and DivineKnightGaming.com, where I am slowly beginning the process of making a game. I've got my project ready. I've got some basic design elements designed, and I'm ready to start programming. So hopefully that'll start coming together over the next couple of weeks. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, check out OK Game Devs on Twitter and okgamedev.com. So there you go.
All right, you've been listening to Molehill Mountain, episode 62, for the last 2 hours. That's amazing. So
yeah, thank you for sticking around for that whole time.
Hope you all had fun, and we will see you back here next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, see ya.